Yep.
Right, the wee red dot in the corner. Right, welcome to today's policy meeting, councillors. I haven't had a notification of any apologies. Are we all here? I'm assuming we are. Right.
We haven't heard from Mr. Shenton, so I'm not sure if he's coming or not.
Okay, so without a notification from him, we'll just leave it open. Okay, so we have item 3 is public forum. We've got no forum today. Number 4, conflict of interest declarations. Look, if there's anybody got a conflict, they feel they have a conflict, either notify me now or just bring it up at the appropriate item. Confirmation of order of business. Carol's going to add one small item to 9.2. Apart from that, it's all as the order paper states. Right. Item 6, confirmation of our minutes. We're starting on, starting on page 6. So could anybody please signal any amendments on pages 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If there's no amendments, would someone like to move? Thank you, Councillor Belsham, and seconded by Councillor Duncan. Those in favour say aye, and against? Carried. Right. Item 7, follow-up actions. Ash.
That's me. So just with this one, as normal, we're happy to take any questions, but I just note that there's pretty good explanations for most of them, and I'm talking further about the bylaw and policy review and as part of my item, so I'll cover that in there. But happy, I'm sure anyone in the room, if we need to answer anything, happy to do that.
So, Your Worship?
The only one from me was item 2, and I see it's closed anyway, but the final AGM or financials from Project Martin, we don't have scope. It shouldn't be, to my thinking, it can't be our issue.
So would you be happy if we closed that one?
But the signal was closed,
it.
but it says no further action at this time. But I don't see that we have scope to be able to push it anyway.
Councillor Ash?
Thanks, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't know that that's entirely correct. I think there is reporting obligations through any of our MOU partners, and ensuring that we actually get those through, I think, is really important. I think our ratepayers would be horrified if we didn't actually have some sort of reporting in place for MOU partners. And there always used to be historically a reporting obligation, financial and AGM minutes, etc., that were required from MOU partners, but maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe documents had been
Through you, Mr. Chair, I apologise, Councillor Ash, you're absolutely right. With respect to the MOU relationship, absolutely we have a requirement. But in terms of their own financials, unspent funds and their own financials, that's not our prerogative.
Councillor Hero, you had a query?
Well, just because this has been brought up, I'll have to go back and as we were at Mōkai Party Services being an MOU partner, I don't know whether or not we were actually obligated to give you a full AGM. I need to go back and find that out, just so that yes, it was, or no, it wasn't. As an MOU partner ourselves in the past.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding was it was required specifically just to provide information to the committee of the benefits to the community that they are supporting. So it's not just the funds that council provide to that MOU partner, but also the extra funds that they've applied to that have also provided into the community to the programs that they run. And that was a requirement that was put back in place for the last set of reporting. So I think you'll find Bullsland District have supplied that. Obviously Project Martin can't supply that because they are now defunct. And I think Taihape Community Trust have provided that too. Yeah. So it is a reasonably new requirement.
Galen.
And I believe just in the community development report that the end of year reports for Taihape and Bulls will come to the August meeting. Yeah, because Project Martin has wound up. We didn't get there one.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on this item? Okay. Any further questions of this part of the report? Oh. Yes, Fee?
Page 14, item 1, with regards to Sports Whanganui, I appreciate this comment later in the paper, but I'm just interested in how much money did we give to Sports Whanganui for them to support us? I just would like to know that financial figure, please.
Galen?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we don't provide anything to Sport Whanganui. We do provide something to Sport Manawatu for the regional sport facilities memorandum, and I think it's approximately around $3,000.
Fee, does that satisfy your question?
Supplementary question to that. The $3,000, was that a one-off fee to pay for, there was a whole regional analysis of what's, and I can remember it coming at that time.
Yes, it came through the long-term plan submissions, but I'd have to check the go back and check the wording. I can't recall. Sorry.
I'm not sure. I thought it was a one-off rather than $3,000 per year for.
And it was in
So
this
it was specific.
year.
Thank you.
Right, unless there's any further questions of this one. Would someone like to move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Wilson. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Right, carried. Thank you. Right, Chair's report. I must apologise for not having it sitting in your tablets or on the desk in front of you. It is hot off the press, but I'd actually like to read it, right, because you can't take it as read. So this is the report for Policy of the Planning Chair, June 22. Good morning and welcome to a very reduced order paper. I've struggled to come up with something challenging to say about the content, so instead I will share a few thinking points. I received through my overfull email system a number of reports from many different agencies. One that caught my eye was the projections for our climate for the next 70 years and what the implications are for us as a district. The report was generated out of NIWA, and I will share it to elected members and officers after this meeting. The key take-home points that may be most relevant are the drying out of the northeast of the district, approximately from Taihape and in the general direction of the Gentilani Road, and the wetting up of the southwest of the district, approximately from Hunterville to the sea. In view of what we seem to be witnessing with our storm events and our near-miss drought in the north, it would seem that the projections are already here. To put a policy perspective on these scenarios, are we as an authority quick enough to evolve our policies ahead of time, or will we let Mother Nature have her way with us and then scurry around pulling policy together after the event? A second question that I would like to ask, again in the management of asset space, is how do we manage historical knowledge especially when it involves multiple agencies and changes of personnel and ownership. The reason I raise this issue is the observation of the management of a section of privately owned land on a rather precipitous piece of landscape that had a jointly funded intervention to stabilise the adjacent hillside. Since the joint planting of a significant number of trees, the previous sites that were continually collapsing onto the road to the point where the road was barely usable at times, the road has been well protected with no loss of service. Note that this intervention work was taken out by the former Rangitikei County Council, the Rangitikei Catchment Board, and the father-in-law of the current owner. If we come forward to 2022, a different management regime, and I've got in brackets, I would describe it best as mismanagement regime, has taken place, where all the trees have been poisoned and died, and the structural integrity of the whole slope has been lost. And all the costs of those decisions have become socialised. That means it lands in our lap. The site is so tragic in a farming sense that little or no profit will be generated. Now we have a 2-lane road that will soon be reduced to 1 lane, and another portion that has been continually inundated from above. From a policy perspective, my question is, what systems do we have in place to capture old knowledge? What policies do we have to engage with an adjacent landowner and the regional council under whose mandate soil stabilisation and erosion control sits? And to be slightly more blunt, when might we be likely to actually enact those policies? From my perspective as a councillor and chair of policy, there seems to be sometimes a gap between having the tools to do the job and actually applying them when the application sits outside what might be seen to be our core business. As with a number of roads that have been impacted by recent storm events, often the causes and fixes actually exist outside our immediate sphere of core business, and yet by not having the right policies or having them but not enacting them, we start to become the authors of our own demise. I would really appreciate some feedback from our staff at the next policy meeting, identifying any gaps in either policy or the enactment. And that is my chair's report. So I'll move that report. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
And against? And if anybody wishes to raise any questions now, I'm more than happy. Otherwise, I'll leave it with staff. And I'd like to give some feedback. And I'd appreciate if other members of the committee have thoughts in this space to feedback to staff, because I think it's a bigger picture than just me throwing a few words around in this room. Councillor Lambert.
As it's a point of interest in my own rainfall records, we're just closing in on the wettest year I've ever recorded in 30 years of recording rainfall.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, obviously I've not seen your report until now. I can't comment in a fraction of a second whether we can meet your requirement to provide that level, given where we're at with annual plan, etc., and staff availability. So I can't make that commitment to you, I'm sorry, as yet. I can take a look at it and come back to you as chair of when we'll have staff available to deliver on the request you've made. If your colleagues, the committee colleagues, agree for me to divert my resources to do that work.
Thank you for your response. Given that I suppose our next meeting is 2 months away, even a cursory overview of our policies probably would be a starting point to say, gosh, you know, can we really rattle the cage of landowners or horizons to actually make stuff happen? That's what I'm alluding to really in my report, is that we seem to be the last man left standing, if you like, when it comes to the impact of others on our networks. And it's really, how can we push back, or how can we actually almost guide processes outside of our immediate control to get a good outcome? I know it's pretty big and it's a little bit amorphous.
Which is why, Mr. Chair, I'm hesitant to confirm that I can meet your expectation without discussing it with my staff and checking on the staff availability. Typically, big picture is lots of resources. I'm sorry, but I just wish to be practical for you.
That's fine. Thank you for your comment. Your worship.
I'm just looking at this in the light of where we are in terms of an electoral cycle. So, you know, undoubtedly there will be a turnover of at least some councillors or mayor. And you're right, it is blue sky thinking around where council should be devoting its time. And if you're looking to do it in terms of some advice to an incoming council, that's one perspective. But if you're looking to do it in a position of you have a new council together, and exactly what do you want that council to focus on, I wonder if it's better taking it as an action moving forward to a new council.
Like I didn't have any particular outcome in mind. I just thought we need to flag these things. And somewhere in the future, we'll be having a workshop on something and we'll be saying, well, actually, have we got the right policies to do it? Because sometimes we get things thrown at us in like the previous assets meeting. But if we haven't given you the right tools, then throwing stuff at you it just doesn't work. You know,
I'm just also aware that there's a whole lot of governmental policy taking place in this space, and that may well form part of the direction of all councils by mandate, or a whole series of templates or recommendations to think about moving forward. So, you know, we could do quite a bit of work and then find it's been superseded by legislation.
thank you for all your thoughts. I'll just leave it there. Right. Oh,
Chair, sorry.
sorry.
Can you please send out that report
I will.
to us so we can ponder it?
I will
Thank you.
forward it on to Mrs. Gordon.
Okay,
And
we'll send it on.
Yes.
Okay.
right. Okay. Item 9, reports for information. Gayleen,
Thank you.
this is your space.
Unfortunately, Joe can't be with us today, but I will take you through the report. Just to clarify, Your Worship, your comment around the sport Wanganui Manawatu funding. So the resolution from the long-term plan was that we'd contribute $3,399 for years 1 to 3 of the long-term plan for the regional sport facility plan, leadership and coordination role.
So it was a 3,000 per annum for
For
3
3 years.
For 3 years,
Yes.
and the final year is when.
It'll be year 3, so we're currently year 1 of this current
I
long-term
thought
plan.
we would have. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we would have been actually in year 2 at least. All right.
Councillor Bishop.
Sorry, just a question on that. So that was specifically to provide us a regional sports facility plan, is that correct?
We have got the regional sport facility plan, which was developed with Sport Manawatu and Sport Wanganui and the other councils. And following from that, Brad presented at the LTP hearings about a role to implement and follow up on the actions from the regional sport facility plan.
So that was Sport Manawatu's input into this district, yeah.
Yeah.
But Sport Wanganui are required by Sport NZ to actually oversee this district as far as implementing
That's correct.
activities and actions, right?
Worship.
A follow-up to this. So we've given 3,000 and we're going to give another 2 lots of 3,000. When did they last meet? I mean, is it active?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, they,
Because if it hasn't been active, we should say we shouldn't continue to fund it.
yes, they do meet quite regularly. I'm not sure how often, but I know Joe has been to maybe 1-2 meetings, and Brad also meets with Joe and myself quarterly to update us on the plan. But the whole group, you know, all the regions meet. I'm not sure if that's quarterly or
We have no councillor representative, do we?
no. It's the staff from the councils throughout the region.
And have we have we had a report on it at all?
I'm not sure if there's been a written report. I'll follow that up.
Thanks, I'll leave it there.
I'd just be interested to know what has been implemented in our region with the three, with that plan, please.
That's done. Assuming, Councillor, your worship.
So that's that report. The second part of this is, which organisations of the two have been receiving money on our behalf, in other words, from national sporting, from government in effect, and what are they doing with it?
I know that previously Sport Wanganui used to receive, they had funding and they had a person that covered our region. With COVID, and there weren't so many events or that type of engagement, that funding was pulled back from Sport Wanganui for a specific position. Following Jo starting with council, she's now meeting regularly with them, and we're looking at how we can tap into funding opportunities and perhaps what opportunity there is to have someone representing our district again.
Yeah, because my understanding is they received money
Yes.
saying that they will provide facilities or other things within our district, and we're not getting any.
They did used to have a funded position, but that was withdrawn.
Thank you.
Okay, have we got further questions of the report? There's quite a large. Website, economic development. Steve, Councillor Wilson.
Questions around the economic development. Is that where you're at? So looking at economic developments and specifically at 4.2, noting that there's been a home survey conducted in Taiapi and an indication to extend it to northern parts of the district, being Uruku, Tawanari, Megaweka. Who undertakes those surveys and how many people are surveyed? So who's doing the survey? Is it council staff doing the survey, or have we got an external agency doing the survey?
I mean, is this your?
It is, and through you, Mr. Chair, the Taihape Community Development Trust is taking the lead on that. I'm consulted by them from time to time just on wording of what they might send out, but they do the bulk of the work.
Supplement to that. So looking at this item in particular, and coming back to 4.2.1, it says there that received 18 responses, 70 expressions of interest. What are the I'm just nervous that the people taking these surveys, what is the expectation that may come out of this? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, you've got here that 17 of which expressed an interest in becoming residents in a home, 8 within 24 months and 6 at some point in the future. Is there an expectation that the Rangitikei District Council is going to deliver a facility like that? Or are we just surveying to garner this information to pass it on to an outside party to provide? And so you've got an expression of interest. Who's going to provide?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, my response is that the survey itself was really a very open-ended way of interacting with residents. It didn't specify who in fact would be funding anything, and in reality, the next step in the process is if it's proven that there are enough responses within a reasonable amount of time so that the people who would like to become residents do so more or less in sync with each other to make it financially feasible, then the next step would be the formation of a local committee to be able to, a volunteer committee to be able to spearhead the project. Up until now, informally, the Taihape Community Development Trust has put their hand up to say they would be that committee, but they have yet to pass a resolution, and that would be needed before going any further. I don't believe there was any assumption from the beginning that council would be the funding agent, or that for that matter, it would replace the local committee. That's probably as much as I can say at this point.
Okay, just one furthermore, if I may, how's the survey conducted? Is it a paper survey? Is it a phone call? How is that?
The service, again, for you, Mr. Chair, the survey was administered by approaching the secretaries of local groups, organizations, membership clubs, that sort of thing. And as well as being distributed as a fold-in or as a tear-out addition to the TUT for 2 different months. There also was a volunteer who sat outside the local New World supermarket and talked to people coming in and going out, and had copies of the survey there and talked to them as well. There were several drop-off points around town. The meetings that were set up by the club and organizational secretaries were then followed up by representatives from the Community Development Trust, and direct presentations were made. But there were also discussions within those clubs so that the secretaries themselves were essentially the point of contact to be able to get a multiplier effect, if you will, because the number of people who could have actually administered the survey was quite limited. So that's how it was done.
Just through you, Chair, I'm just looking to seek some consistency around such things as surveys if it's about to be extended, so that we can be sure that the same questions are being asked and delivered in the same way. Because if you deliver questions slightly differently, you're going to get a different result. And I'm just mindful that whilst I appreciate the work that's been done, I just wonder if perhaps these sorts of things need to be a little bit more robust in their delivery. We could end up with information that comes back that's perhaps misleading in some way.
Again, if you don't mind, let me respond to that. The extension or additional survey is going to be handled by the Community Development Trust, printing up the exact same survey that was administered initially in February, March, and April. There will be one addition of information, which is that it's likely that the place that the surveys will be delivered to or handed in will change. But apart from that, the survey itself will remain the same. And there have been a number of discussions about how the survey should be administered. And up until now, the 2 leading suggestions are, one, they should be handed out through the schools, and school children should take them home to their parents. And then secondly, there should be just a mail drop going through each of these communities and stuffing a copy of the survey into each postal box.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions on that one.
You wish?
So, of the 17 respondees, presumably there's a database of their details and contacts and so on. Are we privy to that, or does that sit within the Community Development Trust?
Well, I'm privy to it. I haven't shared it any further. I was asked to meet with the Community Development Trust to analyze the results and determine what the results actually told us. It was as a result of that joint meeting, if you will, that a decision was made by the Community Development Trust to extend the survey, because essentially the results were inconclusive.
So, so the results were that long word. So you're going back out again.
Yes.
In terms of getting that database together, I'm just a little bit concerned about confidentiality. For instance, if somebody was wanting to move into a home, if they're happy to share that information, that is fine. But if they're not happy to share that information, and I'd be hesitant about putting it in front of us as a council unless that was clarified. So that's just a little note for the future, if you like.
Councillor Edward?
So just to add into that conversation, I wouldn't have thought that any of us would be privy to that type of information anyway, right down to that level of detail of who might be taking part in those sort of surveys.
Yeah, that's
Is
what I
that
want to protect.
Yeah. Why would we want to know that?
Okay.
Yeah, question on 4.3, the Kāinga Ora comments there. So 4.3.1 talks about a social housing pilot project in Oakuni, and then underneath that we talk about intensification of public housing in Martin and Bulls. Are we talking about the same type of thing? Is it public housing, social housing? Is it the...
Yes, we are.
And has Kāinga Ora signalled that there is a growing demand in our district for social housing?
With all due respect, I think this opens up a can of worms. Kāinga Ora will, off the record, admit to that, possibly on an individual basis. They get their mandate from the annual housing plan, which comes out of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. And until such time as we can officially gain input into the annual housing plan, it's unlikely that they're going to allocate additional funding to meet the off-the-record but acknowledged increase in demand. And that's why, as a step moving forward, to try to find a short-term solution to the need for increased public housing in the district, of the various options that Kāinga Ora is tasked with looking at, according to their mandate, the one that is easiest and fastest for them and for us is probably to influence them concerning the intensification of housing. The others are longer term. They require I would say, a higher level of intercession or of influence. And that's, I think, going back to 4.3.1, I think that's what Don Cameron, your worship, the mayor of Ruapehu, was proposing, that a common representation be made by the mayors of Ruapehu, Rangitikei, and Tararua districts to the Minister of Housing to be able to push for an increase in allocation of funds for smaller population rural districts such as we are one of in this region. And but nevertheless, the intensification of housing appears to be a route that Kāinga Ora is more able to respond to in a quicker time frame. And they are already doing that both here in Martin and in Taihape.
So that's where they've got an existing property and they may remove it and put two properties on, two
That's right.
dwellings on there, right?
Yes.
The Ruapehu one was funded principally out of PGF PDU money.
That's correct.
So they are two, that's not a funding mechanism that we have available to them. It was literally the lolly scramble from government. Sorry, I shouldn't put it in such, I'll take the point. The problem is that if when I go to MSD, for instance, and say, we want some housing, and they say, our figures don't determine that you need it, that there aren't people on the waiting list. And I think that's the point Jaime's trying to make, to say we've got to demonstrate a need, and hence surveys and those sorts of things.
Do we have a picture of how many Kāinga Ora houses there are currently in Martin/Bulls?
Again, I'm chuckling because although I've asked this question directly, I don't get a direct answer
Okay,
to the appropriate people of Kāinga Ora, but
Yeah.
they claim that they'll look into it and they'll come back to us. It's going on 3 months that they've been looking into it.
okay, thank you.
We currently have some being built,
Oh, good.
but it's only 3 units. Yeah, I think it's 3, isn't it?
Okay, have we got further questions of this item? Oh, Councillor Lambert.
Just 5.2.1, the vandalism around Te Matapihi, was that hasn't come up, was it minor vandalism or they had a hui regarding the behaviour of the youth over the last holiday period?
So the vandalism in that instance was minor, it was just with the soap dispensers, etc. But there has been some ongoing issues. So the team are working with the school principals, police, and other interested people down there to try and come up with activities, etc.
4.6, the Mahi Tahi Employment Program. Congratulations on the team for their successes there. I'm interested, the new funding that's recently been announced, how does that compare with what we had before?
Jen, I think, is able to answer that for us.
Thanks. So previous years have seen 500,000 for the 12-month period, which has been reduced to 250. The focus for the next 12 months is on NEETs and non-MSD clients, with the annual target being 25, and that's previously been 50.
Thank you very much.
Further to that, I was actually meant to be at a meeting right now in Wellington with regard to this matter, engaging with ministers around further funding. It is a concern, and it is a concern because we have staff employed in this matter, and it's something we are lobbying very, very hard on currently, literally almost every couple of days.
Councillor Ash.
Thank you. Just wondering through you, Mr. Chair, what are our current levels of unemployment within the district to meet this requirement for the Mahi Tahi? And is there, I'm reading this and I'm wondering, it says defined as 30 hours, it says /day times 30 days. So is there a requirement for them to remain as permanent workers for X amount of time, or am I reading this correct that it's just 30 days? That's the requirement, or if somebody could just explain that would be grand.
I think there's probably a typo there. Councillor, I think it should be 30 hours per week times 30 days, but
So 4.6.2.
462.
Through you, Chair?
Yes.
There's an underlying expectation that those placed in employment would get long-term sustainable employment. However, I think that might just be some sort of a rolling average, but we can clarify. Does that make sense?
Does that satisfy you, Kath?
Well, no, it doesn't answer it. I'm sorry. Firstly, there was a first part to that question, which was what are our unemployment levels in the district to balance off against the work that's being done within the Mahi Tahi, and how long are so while there's an understanding that it's a longer term sustainable work, is there any sort of auditing process in that, or reporting back that suggests that people have been employed for a longer period of time, or how does that actually work? Thank you.
Kath, I don't know whether we have the data available for underlying unemployment. It's sort of not our scope, not our mandate.
Oh, sorry, can I, if you don't mind?
Jim.
The funding is allocated based on our population, not unemployment rate, but the rest of it would have to go back to the contractor.
Your Worship?
If I'd known this question was going to be asked, I could have provided it all, because yes, we do get it. When I last checked, our unemployment rate was sitting at around just under 3%. Some of the jobs that we're procuring through Mahi Tahi program are for people outside of our district as well. So there's some cross-boundary relationships going on.
Councillor Hero, you're
or
next.
finding jobs for people in our district, out of our district, etc.
So my comment is in regard to 4.6.3, just to say that it's great to see that there's a spread, that there's not one specific area that's been focused on, and just reading that, that's telling me that it's going, whoever's getting into whatever sort of employment, it's going right across the board. So I think it's a healthy thing. That's my comment.
I heard from Councillor Ashton the question she asked regarding around an auditing process. I can confirm, as I have a staff member employed via this program, that as a business owner and a director, you sign an agreement and it is audited, and there are quite some strict requirements. You are signing up through a process through Mahi Tahi, and then further on through the WINS programs that are available. The document is quite full, and there are some expectations that what you should do, and it is it's audited in that respect. It's not just a turn up on the day type thing. There is a bit of a process to go through.
Thank you, Councillor. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. I actually contacted James Towers just to get an understanding of this, and I'd just like to say I believe the successes around the people that we've got running this program for us, and that they make it their mission basically to really understand the needs of these people to get the results that they're getting, and that has been a key factor of success, as well as holding the interviews etc. down at the marae, rather than taking it away from the MSD building as such.
Jill.
Yes.
So further to that, I absolutely agree with Councillor Dalgety that it seems to be there's a good weighting on the people who are running it and where it's coming out of. I saw in the documents that in fact they're looking at encouraging this sort of activity to be brought in-house, and I wonder, have I got that wrong? And if that is the case, how doable is that for our council? Is there a comment?
To go there.
Sorry, I can't answer that today.
Worship, do you want to have a shot?
Look, this is a really, really active space at the moment. I spoke to the Minister last week around these issues. So we were one of 4 First Foundation councils. It was then widened out. We've established relationships with iwi, with MSD, so we're really, really active in this space. And our successes have been right at the top 2 of all councils that have been in this space. So we're leading the pack. One of the questions that I raised to the Minister was effectively we're going through the future of local government review, and all of the messages coming from local government are that we were more involved in social areas. And so they're wanting us to, or they're questioning the social area involvement with reduced funding. And that what is potentially going to happen is we could lose key staff, or we could lose relationships. And that would be a tragedy with where the government's wanting us to move into, if that's what happens. So there's a whole political aspect to this at the moment. So Minister Cipollini did take this on board, I think.
Tracy.
Just another comment to say that it's an area that we need to stay in, because those people potentially are our, especially if they're young people, are our ongoing ratepayers in the future. So for us to step out of it, sorry to say this, but for us to step out of it, even if it isn't funded, we have to make that there's some things that we should be part of, because the greater good of the Rangitike as a district needs to be thought about, not just the short term, the long term, the effects of those sort of that. And to me, just to me, to the Mayor's Task Force team and the work that's been put into it. So in my mind, one person getting a full-time job has to be a success, surely. So from what I've read on here, there's been a heck of a lot more than that. And just a mihi to you, Dave, for taking, for being part of that whole sphere of mihi, of work. So, yeah, sorry, that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Tracy.
Just finally, if I may, Chair, and thank you. I think it supports what Tracy has just said. There is ongoing pastoral care as part of this program as well, which is very important, particularly for some of our younger people stepping into the workplace. Many of them aren't as prepared as perhaps many of us around the table were a few years ago. So there's an ongoing pastoral care element to this, which I think is quite important as well. So just putting that in.
Thank you for those comments, folks. Right, moving on in our agenda. Any further questions of this report? With you, Taipei Lobby, welcoming communities, any of the above? Sure.
Just one comment, 5.3.5 on page 20. I had the privilege of, well, I'm actually on the Youth Council, I see, as a member, which I took a bit to realise I was again. But so I went to one of the earlier meetings, and it was great to see one of the little girls that used to come to the library all the time now, you know, as part of this program, and the youth that she's still got feeding into this, and to know that there's 2 of them now which are supporting this. It was a very vibrant and a good space. So I just want to mahi to those girls.
Right. If there's any further questions, would someone like to move this report be received, please? So we'll go to Councillor Duncan, Councillor Hiddle. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right. Item 9.2. Carol.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in the interest of time, I'll take it as read and happy to have any questions. But what I would point out is that our policy and bylaw program, now we have Georgia on board. We have had a look at it as staff, and we'd really like to review particularly our bylaw work program with council. So we are proposing to do that as part of a workshop environment, so we can have some discussion around it. So we're anticipating that in July. So I just wanted to make that point, so that we just think it's worth having a good look at it, getting your input into what you think the priorities are, and then setting Georgia on her way to work through that. But I'm happy to take any other questions. Thank you.
So one from me, how wide-ranging do we want this?
I knew you were going to say that. So we will read what you had in your chair's report and see if it fits within that as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there will be the opportunity at a workshop to do that.
Yes.
Councillor Ash.
Thank you. Sorry, are we up to the communications report yet? Can I comment on that?
Yes.
Question on that. Just wondering, were you surprised at what I feel that the numbers are quite low for what should be our consultation period? So I'm looking at the engagement people reached, etc., through our various platforms, and I'm quite surprised at how low it is for a consultation period. And I'm wondering if there's something more, or maybe that's an okay number, I don't know, but I'm wondering if there's something more that can be done to really get out there, especially during something like an annual plan period. And another thing that sort of stood out to me as well is a couple of the things that I think may just be typos, but it does make for reading the report a little bit tricky and slightly misleading, maybe. One of them, for instance, is the people reached. I note in the May, wherever it is, what
page number, please, Kath?
I think it's page 35. Bear with me, and I'll just check that out. page, no, it's not page 35 either. The May, I'm scrolling. The May, there we go. Page 29, people reached. It says it was an increase of 63.8%, and it's 15,755, which isn't 63.8% on the figure given for April. So it does make it a little bit tricky. And I noticed further down in the report, maybe on page 35, it said that it went down 63.8% as well. So obviously another direction there. And I also note that it says about the news media activity the Facebook posts, it says on both of the months that there was 20 posts made to the council Facebook page in each month, but then looking through those headlines, there's certainly more than 20. And so I'm just wondering if it's possible to ensure that those are accurate when the reports come out, so that we can take what's in front of us as being accurate.
Sure, happy to take those comments on board.
Lovely, thank you.
Are there further questions of the communications report? No?
And just, I would make one more comment. The covering report is obviously very light, which does not reflect the work that's being done in this group at the moment. We're just donkey deep in annual plan, so there's a lower reporting period in the other work that we do.
Thank you, Carol.
Is that a technical term, donkey deep?
Sorry, yes. I'm sure you understand it.
Well, it's interesting. We have got some spikes through these reporting periods, and I just wonder, some of those spikes, whether they actually coincide with due dates, mid-May, mid-April.
They will.
So, and the numbers are quite large. When you have 3,000 page views, that's sort of telling you something's going on. Okay, we've got further questions. Otherwise, we can, minimise. Would someone like to, if there's no further questions or comments, would someone like to move that the report be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety and Councillor Lambert. Those in favour say aye. Aye. And against? Carried. Right. Up to item 10. So our next meeting is Thursday the 11th of August, our usual time of 1 p.m. Are there any further items that anybody wants to raise? There's been nothing signalled to me prior to the meeting. If not, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you to those online.